Victoria Sechrist, and welcome to Green Goals. You're going to want to grab a blanket because I'm going to tell you about a documentary that is revealing some sad truths about the state of our common home. It's called Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy, and you can watch it on Netflix. And there's a quote from Laudato that goes very well with this film, even though the film itself was not inspired by Laudato. I think there's a lot of great tie-ins. So, in Laudato paragraph number 53, Pope Francis says, "Never have we so hurt and mistreated our common home as we have in the last 200 years. Yet we are called to be instruments of God our Father, so that our planet might be what He desired when He created it and correspond with His plan for peace, beauty, and fullness." So much of what's happened in the last 200 years is just a lot more consumer goods are being made and wasted. So in the film Buy Now, it looks at shopping, whether it's clothes, shoes, bags, electronics, and what happens to all those things when people are done with them, which is that they typically end up in a landfill. And then that is hazardous to all of us because of the chemicals, the toxins that leach into the soil. We've talked about this before on Green Goals, but this goes into much more detail. And I would absolutely say it's worth your time. So I want to talk about 3 takeaways from the film for me. The first thing that I found super interesting was just the idea that there's an end of life to all products. So for example, say you have kids and you buy them some toys. It comes in probably plastic packaging, much of which is not recyclable. And then maybe there's cardboard packaging. You can recycle that. But then you have the toys here like this, just some fake fruit. You know, your kids want to pretend they're going to the farmer's market, right? And this is great and it's fun, but someday your kids grow up and they don't want to use this anymore. So you might pass it on to someone else, which is great. And then that person uses it and they pass it on. But eventually this is going to get to the end of its use. Someone is not going to want it. So what happens to this item and whose responsibility is it? Is it the responsibility of the toy manufacturer to have a place for these things to go when they're no longer useful, or is it on the consumer? So even though that question wasn't really answered, I think it's something great for everyone to reflect on that watches the documentary. The second thing that was really interesting to me was just the idea of electronic waste and just all of the electronics that people throw out. I have right here a very, very old, we're not even sure what age it is, television. And if we threw this into the landfill, that would definitely create a lot of electronic waste. But I learned that even if I were to recycle this, oftentimes recycled electronics end up overseas. And then in very poor parts of the world, people will strip the electronics apart. And that process itself is very hazardous to the people doing it. They're being exposed to heavy metals, to toxins, and that type of work would be very expensive to do here in the US, partly because you would need a lot of safety regulations in place, and those are not in place in these poorer countries. So we're, in a sense, kind of like taking advantage of them. And there was a guy in the film who was interviewed who actually puts trackers on electronics that are so-called recycled. And then he sees where those recycled electronics end up and then follows the trail and sees what happens. And it's very sad and very sobering and absolutely, I think, makes you think twice about whether you're going to recycle your electronics or just, consider holding on to them longer. One of the tips in the film was, hey, hold on to your electronics just longer instead of getting the new iPhone or the new Apple Watch every time it comes out. Okay, the third thing that I found really interesting was that a lot of companies destroy products that they don't sell. So instead of maybe donating them, they might actually throw them into a landfill, or before they throw them into, say, the dumpster, they might actually destroy them and defile them so that people can't just go into the dumpster and take it out for their own use. I thought this was absolutely crazy. There was a woman who would, in the film, that would go into some of these dumpsters and find perfectly nice handbags that had very clearly been marked up and torn so that people who went to the dumpster couldn't take them for themselves. So that's just a crazy example of waste. Now, it wasn't all doom and gloom. There was some hope in the film. Some of the people interviewed are going on to do very interesting things, and I don't want to spoil all of that. I do encourage you to watch it. I want to watch it again. I'm hopefully going to pop some popcorn. I actually got this container from a hotel that I stayed at. They served popcorn in it, and I thought, you know what? Instead of throwing it out, I'm going to save it and use it again and again and again. All right, so that documentary is called Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy. If you watch it, let me know what you think. Email me at thisistheday@catholictv.org, and I'll see you next time on Green Goals. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed Green Goals, a segment where we look at ways that we can live out Pope Francis's call to care for our common home, inspired by his encyclical Laudato Si. And if you did enjoy it, please subscribe to Catholic TV's This is the Day YouTube channel and click on the bell for notifications. Look for new episodes of Green Goals right here on Catholic TV's This is the Day YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching.